So welcome everybody. So welcome to this video today. I've got something quite exciting to do and I'm going to be doing more of these. I've got this beautiful woman in front of me and her name is Dulanga and she lives in Sri Lanka. And she has been working with me, I think maybe for over a year or around a year. And we've had lots of beautiful conversations and I've been, sort of guiding, I guess, a little bit through Dulanga's journey. She's obviously on this twin flame journey, and we got chatting, I guess, just over the last year about doing an interview and just showing people out in this community, and not even in this community really, just so it can go wherever it needs to go, but just the process, I think, and just how this journey is all about bringing you into balance and alignment. But I thought the beautiful thing is I've watched a lot of her journey, obviously, on, over our coaching sessions, and just seen the journey, seen the metamorphosis, which is what we were just touched on before I hit this record on here. But we're going to do a very informal interview, and Dulanga's going to share a little bit of her journey and just coming into this beautiful energy of balance and into her truth, I think, is probably the best way to put this journey. And yeah, and just navigating, I think, the energy. Dulanga is a lawyer, so she is working in the legal profession. She's working in the corporate structure. So you can imagine going through ego death and learning what this journey, what we think it is and what it is not. And then coming to acceptance with that. So anyway, so welcome, and I'm so blessed to have you here, and it's been a real pleasure to just work along, be in the background while you navigate this journey. So I don't know if you want to do a bit of an intro yourself.
Thank you, Kathleen, for that lovely introduction and shining your light. I think the first time I came across your video was when you were having an absolutely raw and authentic conversation about yourself. And I just remember being so impressed with how someone was able to show up so unapologetically raw and real, in a way that allows other women to connect with her. So thank you for being you and sharing your light and helping others.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. It's I think the thing with this journey is it's scary and lonely at times, and you think you're going, crazy. And like you can easily be taken down a garden path on this journey, which I definitely was for a while. We all know tarot, psychics, all that sort of stuff. But then you start to realize that there's so much more going on with you. And I've always been pretty real and authentic, but I think the difference now is I own that part of me, and it comes across in a different way. And that's only because I've gone through this journey, and I'm still, we're forever ascending. So just before I hit this record on here, I said to Dulanga, what do you want to talk about? Like, what do we want to talk about? And I think one of the things, and maybe you want to elaborate on this, is just around that this is a process, and just how that the process is, there's no end. It's a journey.
I think that's very true. To begin with, I think we are prepared for this journey, even from childhood, from where we are born to what we encounter before we are, quote unquote, awakened. And yes, I have realized that there are moments where I think I've worked through something and I should be able to do it. And then something comes up and it hits you harder, deeper, in a place where you have not addressed before. And of course, the driven go-getter in me is like, I thought I've dealt with all of this, I should be done with this by now. But now, as I go along this journey, I know that it's just like peeling back the layers of the onion. So something more comes up, something more comes up. And the greatest realization has been that I will be on this journey until I leave this body.
Yeah.
And to have grace for myself and compassion in that process.
Yeah, I love that. And I think coming to that place is pure wisdom within, isn't it? When you realize that it's not about, this other body, even though that they are around. And I don't really want to share your journey, but obviously your person's been around in the background, but around. And for those that are, and we won't go down that path, but for those, I think, that are navigating those dynamics where you see them a lot, you can actually work through this process. Would that be fair to say? You can get through the crazy energy and still remain centered and calm.
I think so. I think it's definitely, I think it's a challenge, and very much a huge learning curve. The first thing I would like to do is I would like to reframe it, rather than even like a twin flame journey. I would just, or even a spiritual awakening, I would just call this the greatest journey to self.
Love it. Yeah.
It's the journey to losing all the parts that society conditioned you to be and being more aligned with who you truly are and what you're meant to be here.
Yeah.
So,
Gives me
as well,
goosebumps. Gives me goosebumps you saying that, because it is. It's so true, isn't it?
yeah, and I think the journey, whichever journey we are on, it becomes easier the more we are aligned with our own soul.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. And so, like, what do you think's been some of the biggest aha moments for you that's really helped you shift? Like, if you had some, I'll probably do a summary of this at the end, but if you can just think back to your own journey, where do you think the aha moments were that this is actually about me and it's not about this other person?
I think, from the first time, it was like, when am I being real and when am I not? Looking back, I think both being perhaps the eldest sibling in the family, my own nature, and what I do for a living, I think I was very good at being wise counsel to others.
Yeah.
Maybe I was even a people pleaser. So I was very good at taking care of others, but not so much with taking care of me. So that was, I think, the biggest shift that I had to make was to look into where am I abandoning myself.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was one major shift. And I think the second would be really sitting in my feminine energy, understanding what being is. I actually remember on this journey, like I had a moment where I had to be like, what does being mean? Like Google, like what
Yeah.
being? Because I was good at being driven, whether it was academic achievement or professional achievement. Being driven and going at something was so much more easier than just sitting, uh,
Mm.
sitting still. And I think the paradox is when you are constantly on that path of seeking achievement and chasing, um, even if you get to where you thought you wanted to go, you don't have that fulfillment and satisfaction. So you're constantly chasing more. It's like essentially being on a hamster wheel.
Mm.
So that the shift from that doing to being was a very challenging shift for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it is a shift, because it's more than a mental shift, because we're so programmed to do. Yeah.
correct. And for me, I remember even when I went into the legal profession, I thought, okay, here's an outlet for my masculine energy. At that time, I was not aware of, well, much of this journey or spirituality even, but there was some unconscious knowing that I chose it. But as I go through this journey and my own evolution, the way I approach even work, my profession, my relationships have changed so drastically. It's
Yeah.
about knowing when to be in which energy also.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So, because I think this is a big one, on this journey, what comes, ultimately this is about the soul's expansion and evolution. And we've been awakened to realize that we've been living in lack and limitation, and the soul orchestrated all of that, right? But then there's this moment with, once you've had that soul recognition, that you can't ever go backwards. You can't go back to living in that, and so that needs to peel away, and then the new starts to unfold. How would you say, because look, what I was, sorry, I digress slightly, but often our purpose comes online, and I think there is a lot of people that think you need to just run off and start up your own business and your own spiritual purpose, which I don't believe is the truth at all. I feel that we've all got a role to play. We're still having a human experience. So being in the type of industry that you're in, how do you think that you've really shifted? What's the difference for you, how you are, just showing up, I think, for yourself, for in the workplace, for your clients and the team? Because I know you've had some amazing feedback from other people. It'd be awesome to share that sort of stuff if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, so I think when I started off in my professional career, so it was important for me to seem very put together and like I've got it. And I was not very comfortable with being vulnerable. And of course, the nature of the profession is such. But then I realized that I'm also leading teams where there are many young women coming into the profession. And I realized that they needed to see that vulnerability in me too, that I don't always have it together, that I may make mistakes, but it's about the resilience to get back up and just being really authentic with my team. When it comes to my team, it's really being authentic with them so that they are able to be authentic too.
Yeah.
And thriving. So they know that they have that support and that support to learn and to grow. When it comes to dealing with clients or let's say the counterparty on a deal, I would say the more I align with soul, you are more patient. You waste a lot less time because you're not in that very aggressive, okay, this is where I want to go. This is the only way to go there. So you're actually more flexible and in flow. You see many more options and alternatives and where you can reach positive outcome that works well for both parties.
Yeah.
Actually being, I think, the more I align, even the work becomes more effortless, actually.
Yeah, it's amazing, eh? I totally get that. Do you think that, do you find that, because our frequency shifts on this journey, so do you find that when you sort of really look at, when you walk into the workplace or you are in those kind of places, that you're in a lot more balanced space, and that's why you can think with a lot more clarity and expansion? Because when you're really stuck in the ego, you're boxed, you've limited yourself, you're saying this is all I'm going to work with.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I agree. It's
Yeah.
just more you're able to see a whole lot more. Your vision is far greater than it was.
Yeah, it's incredible way, because you're expanding, and there's so much more that's going to come from that.
Yeah, and I also think what I try to do now is this applies to all areas of life. If you are more grounded and more centered throughout the day, I feel like the interactions you have will be more in alignment as opposed to where, you're sleep deprived, cranky, caffeinated, you're much more irritable through it. Just really a matter of balancing yourself. And sometimes, I mean, that's what I try to do. Like, even if, we all have bad mornings, things are not going our way, just to take a time out before before you react to, yes, this is another big lesson for me on this journey, is to respond instead of reacting.
Yes, I think that's probably been one of my big lessons. I think most of us, but we don't realize that that's what we're doing. We're not actually intentionally reacting. We think we're responding. That's
Yeah.
the funny part of it, is we actually think we are responding, but we're not. We're totally reacting, and they're two very different energies. And you feel the difference when you're responding from discernment and in flow and in balance versus just throwing stuff out on the table without giving it a lot of too much thought.
That's true. And I think I've actually had these conversations with you, Kathleen. Like, I know the more you go on this journey, like, you know that you are actually reacting, but you see it. And there are still moments where you just go ahead with that reaction. But the
Yeah.
funny, oh, I did that. I actually did that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I think the key part of this lesson, like the whole part of this journey, is the soul experiencing itself. So we don't know the full self. You know, when you talk, you said it to reframe, you know, your journey is about the greatest journey to self, which I think is just such a beautiful way to present this, because it is. But you don't know yourself unless we have this reflection. And although everyone is reflecting our inner state of being and vice versa, this other body is our exact reflection. And so, and when you've got that, you know, quite in forefront, you're going to see it more and more. But I think you need it, don't you? Because we don't, unless we've got that reflection, how do we know the whole self? We don't. And I think this whole journey is about getting to know yourself as the soul, as an energetic being. And you do need that reflection, even though it's a little uncomfortable at times.
quite uncomfortable.
What was that?
It can be quite uncomfortable at
Yeah,
times.
quite uncomfortable. Yes. Yeah. So let's talk feminine energy, because I have watched this woman unfold in front of me. And I think, you know, even today, like, I haven't spoken to Dulanga since just between Christmas and New Year's. And every time, I mean, you'd see the same in me as well, right? We're shifting all the time. But I think we should talk about feminine energy, because I know, you know, particularly and I know this journey is not really based on gender, but I think if we were talking about women for a moment, women don't know feminine energy. They really don't. And particularly in the corporate structure, we're so programmed and conditioned to get into that heavy masculine energy. But when you make that shift, how do you feel today when you are, you know, do you feel like, how do you feel as a woman showing up today versus Dulanga that showed up maybe 3 years ago? What do you think the difference in you energetically is?
There's so much ease.
Yeah, amazing.
I think before, when you are trying to be more in your masculine energy, and maybe some of us are better at it than others, um, there's tension. There's tension in it. And I don't think the corporate structure is necessarily designed in a way that supports women. So I think as we evolve, we need to kind of create that flow that women need to perform better at work.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because,
totally agree.
like, I've realized that I'm good at structure, but I need more flow in my life.
Yeah.
And for me, it's about designing a life that supports that.
Wow. It is.
Yeah,
You have to design it too.
yeah, and I think a lot of people think that unless you're clocking in from 9 to 5, it's not real work or you're not productive. But I don't think that's how productivity is measured.
Totally agree. Yeah.
It should be measured, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know how I feel. You know, I come from a big corporate, big senior roles as well, and I felt suffocated, boxed in, and I knew it wasn't resonating. But we think we're in lack and limitation then, right? So we're not aware of what's actually wrong. But you know, it's only because we've gone down this journey that we now know the difference. And there's just no way I can go back into that energy. And, you know, one of the big passions for me, which is why I want to talk to this, is about that balance of masculine and feminine in energy in the workplace. And I'm not even talking about gender, but maybe today we are going to be talking about a little bit more around women because we're both women. But, you know, I think even for men, they need that soft, nurturing. Otherwise, they're just too hard, too decisive, too closed off, too shut down. But equally, women can do that. I mean, I was like that. I'd become very closed down, shut off. And then it loses that flow, that creativity. It's, but I think for women, you know, we are designed to be in flow, and we need that in the workplace for us to perform. And productivity, I'm far more productive today than I ever have been, and I work far less hours. I don't know about you, but I'm just clarity, focus.
I absolutely agree. And particularly where there are more women in the workplace, I think you do need that supportive, nurturing energy. I've been lucky in my career anyway to have very supportive female mentors. And now that I'm in a position to be one, I enjoy that. I feel like in some ways, in this corporate structure, we stand on the backs of the women who came before us to hold the door open to the women or the men who come after us.
Yeah.
Creating that environment that's supportive, but also you have boundaries of, you know, where you need to meet certain goals or targets, but you also that supportive and nurturing energy in the workplace. So people actually do feel a sense of community and purpose in what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's quite life-changing when you really understand and you start resonating with energy, how, yeah, when we don't make space for us to just be, like you're saying, I had to Google the word, like, what does being even mean? Like, which is crazy, right? Because we're called human beings and yet we don't even know what that means. That's, yeah, it's crazy. So just sticking around this feminine energy stuff, what tips, I guess, could you share that's really helped you embody your the feminine side of you, so that you can really, yeah, to help bring that balance that you needed?
For me, well, of course, I first had to Google what to do.
Yeah, you and me both.
And it was, I actually did start with things like shorter meditations. For me, I realized swimming was one thing which really helped me shut off my mind and just be in a state of flow. And I got into things that I was not necessarily into, whether it was just like, I don't know, interior design, cooking, gardening, and taking the time to not be doing anything.
Yeah.
And I think as I progressed on the journey, and I had certain health concerns as well, there was a time at which I think my body sort of forced me to kind of stop taking care of everyone or putting everyone before me.
Yeah.
So I think that was the biggest obstacle that I had to, but it sort of just kind of pushed me into being with me and doing me, because I just had to do that to overcome my health concerns.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you do. And it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to give that self-sacrificing part of ourselves up, which is crazy.
Yes, and I think like I'm the oldest sibling, so you know you're the oldest sibling. You can be a bit of a people pleaser, and you know your validation is also so dependent on what everyone around you wants from you or feels about you. And turning the lens around and validating yourself is hard.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
something I would like to touch on, Kathleen, is, and this is a conversation that been having with many of my friends. We do see a rise of conditions like PCOS and endometriosis.
Yeah.
So for me, looking at this and looking at the way women have been working in such driven high masculine energy, I believe that that is directly contributing to
Oh, I have no doubts about that whatsoever, just through my own personal experience and the amount of women I work with that are now in beautiful energy and they don't have any period pains. I personally had severe endometriosis and had multiple surgeries, no pain anymore. And it's the frequency, and because I've got better balance. Yeah, totally. It's a great topic to bring up because I see it time and time again with people that I'm working alongside, and it's quite, when it's profound. It's very profound.
Yeah, and I think it's such a necessary and essential shift, and it's something I'm personally very passionate about, to see the impact that we are putting on our systems by being in energetic imbalance.
Yeah, totally. And we're not, we're only on this journey because we've been awakened, right? Otherwise we were fully asleep to this. But when you start to resonate that everything's energy, then it makes sense that, these things that go on clinically wrong with us, if that's how we want to apply it, but they're happening for a reason. And it's because in society, we're not taking care of ourselves energetically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Energy is, it's the one common thing, right? It's the only language that we all universally speak.
This is true. And I think another interesting lesson for me was, as a lawyer also, you believe that you can convince the other through words.
Yes.
When you shift in energy, you can convince with far fewer words and arguments, whether it's just family, clients, or any of your relationships. The shift is profound.
Yeah, amazing. What a huge statement to make, right? So I think we all need to sit with this one for a moment, because we think that this whole journey, well, prior to this journey, we were taught that we could control things in the physical world, right? With words. Let's be honest, words manipulating behaviors, whether we thought that they were manipulating or not, but it's programming, it's conditioning. And you can't, everything in this physical world is temporary, everything except your energy. So of course it makes sense that your energy is, you shift your energy, and this whole journey shifts for starters, but also everything around you starts to shift. So such a big statement to make. I can just imagine you would be operating very differently. It's almost less is more. The less you say, the better. Yeah, because your energy, you can feel the energy before you actually speak. Yeah, very true.
Sorry, you're saying?
Oh, I was just saying, you feel the energy before any words. That when you meet somebody, it's the energy that you feel first.
True. And I think I remember feeling very frustrated when I couldn't just get through to people, and you try even harder and you fail even harder too. So whereas things are much more in flow when you are in energetic balance.
Yeah, love it. And how do you think your relationships have changed with your family?
Oh, it's just been so much better, because again, you're not trying to convince someone else to see things your way. And you're less likely to react and have a temper tantrum and a ridiculous argument.
Yeah.
I want to let things go, but you're also having firm boundaries. So it's a more empowered state then, you know, you're feeling like a victim. Oh, they don't understand me. But no, you're just like, okay, you have respect if they can't understand your opinion, but you have respect for yourself to know that you won't go along with whatever that doesn't align for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how you make healthier choices for yourself.
Very much.
And so what else would you say? I know we haven't touched on this, but how would you see now a relationship differently? Because I think when you get on this journey, initially we see relationships a certain way, but as you start to shift, right, you see them. Would you agree that you see them so differently now? Because I know I do.
Yes, I definitely do. And it's actually been an interesting week for me because relationships, even in the context of marriage, I've been talking to some people and I just realized that there are some people who can be in relationships just for the sake of it, you know, just so. And the way I see relationships now is that being truly, authentically you, having grace and space for the ever evolving versions of you. And if you
Love
are
that.
like, if you're in a relationship, it's just that having that understanding that that person is going to be constantly evolving too. And can you evolve and grow together? Can you, you know, maybe choose that version and that version while choosing your version first, your evolution? Whereas,
Amazing. Yeah, you see it so differently, don't you?
yes, it's not, I think it's not like a sacrificial version or just being in a relationship, you know, just for the sake of something. But I would look at relationships, any relationships, as conscious partnerships.
Yeah,
And I think
absolutely.
being in conscious partnership, I think if certain relationships where you're no longer aligned, there can also be conscious uncoupling.
Yeah. Yeah,
Respect and
it's a
love.
good way to put it. Yeah. I definitely, you do everything shift. Your whole perception of life transforms on this journey and it's constantly transforming. And you just see, yes, this journey at the beginning is so challenging because, we're so conditioned and, we've met this other person and it's just like the most surreal experience ever. But actually, once you get out of that 3D stuff and you start really coming inwards, and I know that we haven't touched on this yet, but I think just about your awareness of the journey is how it's not done and dusted. I don't know if you want to expand on that, but there's not just like this is, like the twin flame journey is that it's not really a twin flame journey. It's like you say, it's the journey to self, and it is. Yes, we've been awakened by this other body, and yes, they can come back in and stay with you so long as you're in the right energy, which is what we've touched on. But ultimately, they're here to hold you in alignment, and we lead this energetically first. But actually, it's not even. It becomes less about that as you move, doesn't it? And then it's more about, well, what do I want for me actually? When you get out of the self-sacrificing parts of yourself.
Yeah, I think you just meet all the parts of you that you just haven't met before. And I think part of society conditions us to believe that, um, you know, being a good person is sacrificing sometimes what you truly believe in for the sake of others.
Yeah.
And very much tough conditioning to get out of. But how can you truly understand another or love another when you don't do that for yourself?
Mm. Oh, and that's what this journey is about. It's about you seeing all parts of you and loving all parts of you, even the bits where could have, I don't know, conducted yourself in a way that you probably wouldn't do today, but you love that part because you've learned something from it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a journey. It's a challenging journey. For me, another big challenge was I got severe nodular cystic acne. And I was doing everything I possibly could do to come out of it. And it was just not going away that easily.
Mm.
And I'm someone who, leads a very active lifestyle, try to eat clean, and I just really couldn't figure out what was going on with me. But I think looking back, I'm now grateful for that experience because I just had to learn to love that version of me.
Yeah, you did. I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got like two little things that, hello, gorgeous, you look great, by the way. I'm like, I'm gonna love myself through this.
Yeah.
And
And you did amazing. And the thing is that I remember when you were going through this and that Kundalini energy, because I had major issues as well, not quite the same as you. Definitely had lots of skin issues. Ironically, a lot of mine started before I even met my twin, about 8-9 months before I met the twin. And but then I was getting shingles. This is after I met the twin, and having all these random things happening to me. It's your Kundalini energy. It's like purifying and getting all the toxins out. But yes, loving you while you're going through it and showing up for work every day is not always that easy, is it?
no, it's not, because, it's just like sometimes, people, they forget that you have a mirror at home, and, everyone has a comment, and it's
Yes.
not easy, not at all easy weathering that. But then you come out of it a lot stronger because you're like, oh, that happened. I got through it. So
Yeah, you're definitely through that. Yeah. I think you're very much in your glowing radiance. You're coming really into that real, this journey is almost like chaos. What the heck's going on with me, to this purification thing that we're going through, picking ourselves, learning the new parts of ourselves, falling back over again and going, oh, I could have done that better. But then you come out to this, I don't know, we talked about the metamorphosis, right, before, and it's like you come out and you sort of, now you're the butterfly, right, and you're drying off your wings, and I can see you're just like ready to fly.
yeah, and I think we need to accept the fact that in order to become the butterfly, you need to go through the caterpillar phase.
Yes.
I did not like the caterpillar phase. The caterpillar phase was ugly, it was isolating, it was difficult, but once you come out of it, you have so much grace and love for that version of you,
Yeah.
so much respect for who you are now.
Yeah, you do. And I know for me, I do sometimes, I look at myself in the mirror, I take my makeup off or whatever, and I'm like, I'm in awe of this woman. And not because of where well, it is a part of it is about where I'm at today, but it's just the journey, and that I've actually been able to move my way through it, not always in the most graceful ways, but you come out of it. And I was away last week, and I spent the weekend with some friends, and this woman said to me, you're just so peaceful, your energy is just stunning. And they've known me before I even was activated on this journey, so they've watched that unfold, and they've watched me go through a messy divorce and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, it's actually okay to stand in front of the mirror and say, I am inspired by myself. And you should say it, and it's not coming from ego. It's like, we need to love ourselves, and that's ultimately what this journey is about. It's about learning to love who we are, all parts.
Absolutely. And Kathleen, I don't know whether you feel the same way about it, but something I've noticed recently is kind of a shift among women. I think maybe even a couple of decades ago, women were in some ways programmed to compete with each other,
Yes.
whether at the workplace or whether it was for the attention of men. And for me, I'm very much a girl's girl, and that was something that never resonated with my energy. But now, I also, maybe over the last 2 years, I see women leaning into each other for support
Yeah.
and for in the biggest possible way. And I just see this transformation happening with my women friends. And I just feel like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is exactly what was missing.
Yeah.
Women, they're not no longer competing each other, but essentially, fixing each other's frowns, supporting each other. And it just makes me so happy to see this, because
Yeah.
you're not just supporting women by doing that, because women having that connection with each other, they naturally fulfill something that men can't give them too.
Yeah.
But equally also. So I think by having this shift, we are supporting evolution, the planet, both men, women, and the children
Mm.
into the world.
Yeah, totally get that. And I think the reason we've been like that is because of the masculine energy. It's a very competitive energy and it's very unattractive. And you feel so much better when you're out of it. And it's one of my big passions that I am going to speak to at some point more vocally around women in the workplace. You don't need to compete with men. That's not our job. We are our own unique, beautiful souls. And actually, when we're competing up against women, that's, you know, we might as well like knock their crowns off their heads, and they've been knocked around enough. We do it to ourselves enough without needing to do that to other women. So yes, totally get it. And you know, just being able to be in this energy where you see it with so much clarity, and knowing now that you can have such a stunning impact in these spaces. And I know that I think last time we spoke, you know, someone sent you a beautiful message, and yeah, you have the message. I don't know if you want to share that, because it was quite cool.
Sure. I don't know whether you can see it. I can see it. Can you see it?
Yes, so maybe read out what it says, because it's stunning.
So she just says, I just want to say you've been such an inspiration, not just at work, but in proving that being fabulous is a full-time job. How do you do it?
Yeah, isn't that gorgeous? And that's another woman, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Yes, amazing. And that is women supporting women, celebrating women. And I think that that's, yeah, so important to do.
Yeah. And for me, it's a big part of my purpose. It gives me so much satisfaction, particularly in this profession also, when when you see them coming in just as interns and growing through their career, not just as lawyers, but as more confident women.
Yeah.
I'm just proud of them, and it's just so fulfilling to see them thrive.
Yeah, amazing. So where should we go? I think let's touch before we wrap up. Where would you say you're more comfortable now with who you are? Because I think we meet ourselves, you know, and this journey does get you into that place where you actually just know yourself.
Could you just reframe that?
Yeah, I can. So just like, how do you feel like if you had to summarize yourself up in this now moment with the version that you are today, right? We're going to change versions all the time, obviously, but if you could summarize that, how comfortable you are in your own skin.
Oh, so I feel in flow, at peace, and the most confident and empowered version I've ever been.
Yeah, amazing, eh? Yeah. It's the most beautiful feeling. And I think, you know, if you're new on this journey, what advice would you give? Or if you're still in the ego and in the throes of being super focused on the twin, what advice would you give, knowing what, you know, being through, you know, this, coming out the other side of that cocoon?
Um, Hang in there. There's no big red button.
Oh,
Really not that. So just try to be kind to yourself.
yeah. Yeah, there's definitely no red button. And I
Yeah.
feel that's part of this journey, is accept that there's no red button.
Big button.
Yeah. And you don't actually, do you know what? You don't actually want there to be, because you come out feeling amazing. And, there's so much more still to come. Like, this is just coming through the metamorphosis, right? This is just the butterfly drying off the wings, because that's how I feel about myself.
So I think eventually you become grateful for the accelerated evolution.
Yes.
And like, you wouldn't be put on the fast track if you were not ready for it. And if you could be on it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. We are made for this. We were created, we chose to come here. And even though, and I often see this on my channel, is, I just can't do this, it's too painful. And yeah, be kind to yourself. I think it's a really important word, because you are going through a process, but the process is happening for you. And that process is going to be different for everybody. We're from two very different cultures, for starters. I've got heavy conditioning. I'm sure you've got heavy conditioning, but our conditioning will be really different. And I was chatting to a friend today, and I said, we were talking about some of the core wounds that get activated. And I said to her, the thing for me is, it was never about, a lot of people have a lot of limitation, scarcity around abundance, for example, like money. That's never been my big thing, but I was still living in limitation and lack about how I saw myself. And I didn't know how to allow true love to come into my life. I didn't know how to be open to it and expressive to it. So we shut it down, we close it off, because we're scared of it. But for others, it could be that they're just stuck in these perpetual cycles of just no money. And I guess I want to encourage everyone, it doesn't really matter which, both. This is where the journey is really shifts, is when you're in this frequency, you're getting into your soul frequency. Both love and abundance are synonymous with each other. It's the same frequency, and it all comes at you, and you don't even go chase it. You just be in your beautiful energy, and it's worth the pain, it's worth the suffering, because the pain and the suffering is actually the unveiling of the magic of you that you didn't know. I think we all know it's there, but we don't know how to get out of it.
This is true. I remember early on in the journey, someone telling me, your pain will be one day someone else's gain, but the pain was also my gain.
Yes.
It was just like I was losing all the parts of me that were just inauthentic. And I grow and evolve, I'll continue to lose more parts that are no longer in resonance with who I truly am.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah, so true. You're just losing things that are not in alignment.
This is true. And I think for me, I had so many new friendships and connections come into my life, which were so supportive and so loving and nurturing almost. So I'm truly grateful for all the incredible support that I receive now. And I just think it's a frequency shift.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I wanted to do this with you was because I benefited from you sharing your story and others like you sharing their truth. So I hope me sharing mine will be of benefit to someone else.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. It definitely will be. So any parting words before we wrap up? Any words of wisdom? Your soul's wisdom.
I think there's a lot going on in the world that right now that actually looks scary. But I think we are living in one of the greatest eras where the truth will come out and everything else seems to be falling away.
Yeah.
I would just say, remember that you're here to thrive and not to struggle.
Yeah.
So just be boldly, unapologetically, authentically yourself.
Yeah, amazing. Love it. And that's what this journey is awakening you to, because you haven't been, none of us were. and you've got to go through that metamorphosis to learn who that actually is, and even that will keep expanding and evolving, because we're a soul, we're energy, and energy expands, and we're getting rid of the fear and we're expanding the love, and that frequency just radiates, it's yeah, I mean, I can just see the shift in you, and it's incredible. And it's when you really, it is a fast process. This expansion is not slow. I mean, I sometimes I wake up in the morning and I can be somebody almost quite different by the time I get to bed. Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been it's nice to have these chats, and just to show people that, there's others going through this journey, and you don't need to stay in the suffering, and that you can come through this and start to have such a beautiful impact on everyone around you. But you do that in the most graceful way. I mean, just watching you just sitting here, it's all very elegant and graceful, and it's just you're just glowing, and it's beautiful to see. It really is. And I can only imagine working with you, you'll probably have such an amazing impact in your environment, for sure.
Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you for all the amazing work you do, and for
Yeah.
all that you give others.
Yes, the thing is that it's just innately in you. Yeah. It always has been, but the difference is now I own it, and I'm home, like I'm actually where I'm meant to be, not fighting fires of board reports at some stupid hour.
That's something important that I wanted to touch on, because you just said that word, home. And actually, maybe this should be my parting message. I think it's about finding home within yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what it's all about, finding home within yourself, because we've continuously been outsourcing it to families, to partners, to work, to friends. But yeah, on this journey, you learn to find home within yourself.
Love it. I think that's a wrap. Great message. Thank you, and thank you to everybody for listening. It's it's just I'm going to do more of these as I've got a few people lined up, but this is my first, so thank you. And it's just such a blessing to have been working with you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thanks for everything.
No, you're welcome.